Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. I have some fun projects that I cannot wait to show you. Today I am sharing some bougie Halloween projects. Yes, pun intended. And I am going to be using the Indigo Vines product suite. So I have it all here. I have the layering stencils here for the Indigo Vines. It's a 4-piece layering stencil set. I also have the coordinating die and stamp set. Now I won't be using the stamp set today, but I wanted to show you that it's an option. And these all coordinate with the beautiful Indigo Vines washi from Pinkfresh Studio. Now, I'm going to be making a Halloween project today, so I picked out a bougie Halloween color scheme. And it includes Rocky Slope, Licorice, Candy Violet, Regal Kiss, and Sparkling Rose. And we are going to do some ink blending. Now, I do have my big Memory Misty out. This is a 12 by 12 Misty stamping tool. I just wanted to be able to ink blend this larger area more easily without anything hanging out of my standard size Misty. So I brought this in and I am using a full sheet of Hammer Mill 100-pound extra smooth white cardstock here. Now I've been trying this cardstock out recently and I am really liking it. I would love for it to be just slightly heavier in weight. It is a 100-pound cardstock, not 110, but it is super smooth, and guess what? It foils absolutely beautifully. So thank you, Leah and Heather, for recommending this to me. And you can see I've gone ahead and placed my first layering stencil from the Indigo Vines layering stencil set into the lower left-hand corner of my Misty. And I'm starting with the Rocky Slope ink, and I'm using an ink blending brush to blend on this lighter gray. Now, if you wanted to go a little bit darker, a little bit moodier, a little bit spookier, you could absolutely move up in color. This is the second lightest, or it's not the lightest, it's the next one in the gray family from Pinkfresh. And then Licorice is the darkest, but you could absolutely use a black ink and then go a little bit lighter. And I believe that color is called Metropolis. So once I have that base layer of Rocky Slope blended, I positioned my next stencil into the lower left-hand corner of my Misty stamping tool again. And now I'm using a blending brush to add my Licorice ink, and you can see those darker gray details. Now the third stencil in this set is the little flowers, and there are just a few of these, and I thought it would be fun to bring in a purpley color. Now I really love Candy Violet. Sometimes I wish it was a little bit more pink. So what I did was add a little bit of Sparkling Rose over this number 3 layering stencil first. And then I went in with the Candy Violet, and I'm kind of mixing those two colors together to create my own custom color. Now for the final step in the ink blending process, I'm going to bring in stencil number 4, and I'm going to add some deeper, darker purple for the detail layer of these florals. And that is Regal Kiss. Now notice by using this Misty stamping tool, I'm able to just position my stencil into the lower left-hand corner of the Misty every single time, and I don't have to tape anything in place. In fact, I'm just using the magnets in my Misty to hold my stencil and my paper in place as I do my ink blending. And you can see when I remove that final stencil, I have a very cool Halloween wreath. I love this color palette for Halloween. And then I can take this full-size sheet of letter cardstock, flip it around, and use some different colors of ink to create a Christmas theme wreath. And you will see a little peek at that project later on in the video. So for my Christmas wreath, I used olive, evergreen, coral reef, passion fruit, and candy apple. Now, once I have my wreaths ink blended, and it was so easy using these layering stencils, I'm going to cut my piece of paper in half so that I can run this through my die cut machine and die cut all of these elements that I've just created. Now, if you want the extra little lines in there, you could absolutely use the Indigo Vines stamp first and then stencil the ink over it to color it in. But I have another plan for kind of the vine lines that you would get from the stamp. So I'm just going to die cut this out. I'm using that coordinating one-piece die, and I've held it in place with some removable tape. And you can see this die cuts beautifully, but there are some areas that are kind of blank that would be filled in by the stamp if you chose to use that. But it absolutely looks beautiful on its own as well. And that's the thing I really love about these layering stencils, is that you can use them with or without the coordinating die set or coordinating hot foil plate, whatever it may be. Now, I did want to mention that I die cut that wreath 8 more times from some heavyweight white cardstock. And now I have one of the circles from the diagonal stitched circle set from Pinkfresh Studio, and I'm using that to die cut 2 acetate circles. Now I am using all of these die cut wreaths to create a standalone shaker element, and I'm calling this kind of a gift topper, but it could be a standalone tag, it could be an ornament for Christmas. It has a shaker element in it, but it's really versatile. And I'm showing it at the end of this video on top of a couple little packages, and I think that's an adorable way to use it. But you could also do the same thing on top of a card front and make it a shaker card. Now for the areas of this wreath that are not completed by the stamp, that would be if I had used the stamp, I'm using a Zig 2-way glue pen to kind of draw in some vines. And this glue will dry tacky, and I am going to add some pewter foil over these lines in just a minute. So I've gone through, I've added all my vine lines onto my wreath and my extra elements here, and I'm just scooching them aside so that they can dry. And once that's dry, I will use some Thermoweb pewter foil to press over this tacky area, and I will have some foiled vine lines, which I think is super cool. Now, while that's drying, I'm going to start building the base of my wreath shaker here. So this is a shaped shaker element. And I'm starting out with one of those plain white die cuts. I'm adding liquid glue all over it. And then I am going to take my first acetate circle and lay that on top. So I need 2 acetate circles because I'm gonna have to have one at the base and one at the top to trap all of my shaker guts inside of the shaker tag. Now I'm going to use liquid glue to continue to stack up these plain white die cut wreaths. And I did use the Accent Opaque Digital 130-pound cardstock to die cut all of these wreaths. It's a nice heavyweight cardstock, and I ended up stacking up 8 of these wreaths total to create enough depth to allow my crystals and my jewels to shake around inside. Now, if you wanted to use a foam adhesive instead, you could absolutely do this. I was feeling very patient this day, so I decided to go ahead and do the stacking technique. Now I have 8 of them stacked up here, and I'm gonna set this to the side with a heavy acrylic block over the top and allow that to kind of set up. And while that's doing that, I'm going to use this Thermoweb pewter foil. This is a transfer foil like you would use with a toner sheet or a laminator or something like that. You could also use this with like a transfer gel. It's a little bit different than the hot foil that we use for our hot foil plates, but you could absolutely use the hot foil that you use with your hot foil plates for this technique as well. So I've just pressed that foil with the pretty side up over the areas where the glue had dried, and because it's tacky, that foil stuck in those areas. Now it's time to fill my shaker wreath here. So I am using some of these gray colored crystals, and I'm also going to mix in some of the light purple jewels from the jewel pack. These are both from Pinkfresh Studio. I'm just kind of mixing it up to bring some more of those colors in. And by the way, I will tell you how I did those letters here in just a moment. I'm kind of going out of order today. So I wanted to make this all make sense. I'm going to build the shaker tag first and then show you the letters. So just hang in there with me. I'll gotcha. So as I put these jewels into the shaker tag element, I am going to make sure that the pretty side is facing up, not the back side. So it did take me a few minutes. And luckily the depth does not allow for these to kind of flip over inside of the shaker tag. So once I have them with the right side up, I can go ahead, add some glue to the top of my stack here. And then I'm going to add my second acetate circle over the top of this. So I am sandwiching the acetate circle between the very top colored layer and the plain white stack behind it. So to recap, I have a plain white layer, an acetate circle, 7 more plain white layers, an acetate circle, and then finally the stenciled colored wreath that I'm going to lay on top. And I'm just adding some liquid glue once again on the back side of this wreath. And I'm just making sure all of those wreaths line up as I place them on top of each other. This leaves me with a very cool, very sturdy shaker element that I could put on top of a gift package, on top of a treat bag. I can add it to a card. I could use it as an ornament. So it is very versatile, but I think they make great gift toppers. Now I've sped up the video here, obviously, on the blending part to show you how I created these letters. I started with Candy Violet and then I blended on some Regal Kiss, and I'm finishing off with some Licorice ink, and I just blended onto a plain piece of white cardstock. And then I'm going to use the Leah's Ornate Lowercase and the Heather's Lowercase to die cut the word boo from this ink blended cardstock. And this is going to give me some ink blended letters for my sentiment. Now, once I die cut these, I really felt like I needed more depth and darkness towards the bottom. So I used a piece of Post-it tape to hold these letters in place. And then I grabbed a mini or a small ink blending brush. I added a little more licorice to the bottom of these letters. And then I came in with the Regal Kiss and kind of blended to soften the line between that deep dark licorice color and the purple that I already had going on. So I'm not blending over the entire area of these letters. I'm allowing some of that original ink blending to stay behind, but I'm just kind of darkening up the lower part of these letters. Now I've attached these onto a vellum banner, and to the left side of my wreath, I've added some little vellum vines and stems and leaves there, just adding those with a little bit of liquid glue. And I'm going to add this die cut sentiment onto the top of my shaker tag here with a little bit of foam adhesive. Now to finish off my bougie Halloween shaker tag or gift topper here, I did add a few more jewels and crystals on the top of it, and that just gave it a little more sparkle. And I thought it would be fun to make a second one of these that's a little more spooky than bougie. And so for my shaker filler, I used googly eyes for the second little shaker wreath here. And I thought that was a fun way to kind of change it up. Now keep in mind, just by changing the color scheme on this particular wreath and changing the color of jewels that you use and the sentiment that you use, you can make this work for any occasion. In fact, when I first grabbed this stencil set, I was so tempted to do it in those beautiful blues and navies that the original Indigo Vines washi tape is kind of designed in. But I thought it would be fun to show you how you can use these products for holidays year-round as well. As always, I will have links to the featured products used in these projects in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there. And I really hope you enjoyed today's project because I had a great time making these bougie Halloween tags. Thanks so much for watching today. If you liked this video, if you like these projects, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here on this YouTube channel so that you don't miss any of the fabulous paper crafting and card making video tutorials here. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. I'm so glad you're here. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.